Welcome back to the Marvel Movie Minute, a daily podcast in which we explore the films of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, 1 minute at a time. In this, our 5th season, we are looking at Joe Johnston's 2011 film, Captain America, The First Avenger. I'm Andy Nelson from the Next Reel Film Podcast.
And I'm Pete Wright. And yes, there are so flags.
Today, we are talking about Minute 105, which begins with Red Skull telling Steve he could have the power of the gods, and ends with the power of the gods dissolving Red Skull away. Ouch. Back on the show, we have Ryanne Bennett joining us again. Hello, Ryanne.
Hello. I mean, listen, Red Skull has some serious allergy issues. Let's just give him a moment, just let him rest a little bit. That's what the scene was about. You put up a good fight, just put up a good fight.
This minute was about his allergies?
Yes, this minute was about his allergies.
Totally changed my perspective on all these movies.
We were all thinking about it. We know, we talked about the face, the cosmetic surgery that happened here. We were all thinking it. I'm just saying he needed a moment. He had his God moment. So let's just, we had to bring it to a close.
This is one of those minutes where when preparing for this minute, when I looked at the script lines that we have in our notes where he says, "I've seen the future, Captain. There are no flags." I heard every other time I've watched this movie, "I've seen the future, Captain. You have no friends." And I thought, that's now it's like playground insults. Like, you have no friends. Like, that's just not very nice. And also maybe not as much of an evildoer line as you maybe think it is. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I'm glad to know that he's talking about political boundaries and the fact that Hydra is the big one, is the big boss. But there are no flags. We could do better.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I want to talk to you too about some changes in the script. This is that moment where Red Skull starts shooting at Steve, and as he's shooting at him, this is the time he decides, I'm also going to have a conversation with you. And it's not quite villain monologuing, but it definitely feels like that. There's something
pretty
going
close,
on with that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in the script, or in the film, he just says, I've seen the future, Captain. There are no flags. In the film, that's what it says. In the script, he says there are no flags, but hydras. Do you feel like that changes anything? Is there a context thing? Like when he says there are no flags, is that just like an anarchistic view of things, or is he implying Hydra? Like how do you read that? Do you like having him not say but hydras?
Yeah, I like the Hydra part going because it's Hydra itself. You think of as union as just racist and so much negative connotation behind it, where it gives a whole new level to evil. If you're saying all I want to see in this world, in this nation, but the method you want to put behind it is just Hydra. It's all Hydra 24/7. So I think not saying, okay, I want to take out the entire world is gone. There's no flags. There's no representation. It's just extreme gods and power. Doesn't make him sound any less like you want to give him a hug. But, it's taking a different context and just the root of all evil. That is Hydra. And, kind of expanded it more of like he had this in his head. He had this God impression of how he wanted to shape things and how he wanted to create things instead of just pure evil is how I envisioned it.
Yeah, I like the way you say that, where it seems like it's even beyond Hydra, right? Mm-hmm. It's like this God power that he wants to attain, where he would rule as a god and there would be nothing but him. And so it's an interesting change, and I actually like the way that you read that.
I think so too, because what we've known from the very beginning is that Red Skull is an agent of chaos, and he was using the Nazis to grow his role in Hydra, and we learn he's using Hydra to grow this, his own agency in God power, and everything that he does is a step to some other bit of acquisition of power. And I like that it demonstrates he has no specific allegiance to Hydra. He's just an all around 360 degree bad guy.
Yeah.
And is playing for no particular flag at all.
Now, Steve's response to him in the film is "not my future," which, again, kind of like his "nope" that we had a few minutes ago. They seem kind of
lame,
kind of flat. It seems like they are trying to come up with kind of those quippy retorts that he was often doing with Bucky, where they're just throwing these little zingers at each other, and they're cheeky and everything. But it also kind of, I don't know, it doesn't feel very exciting when he's like, not my future. And that's kind of his last line that he has to Red Skull. Like, that's your big final line. You're going to say, not my future, and throw your shield.
Yeah.
Okay. In the script, I want to know what you think of this, because I'm not sure this is any better. In fact, I think it's worse. What Steve would have said, as it was scripted, was, keep the future. I'm looking for a little here and now.
That was written by Nicholas Sparks, and it was on a beach somewhere.
Oh my God, the lines are so cheap. They're just better when they're just not talking. When they just let the powers go at them, it's just so much better. Just let your powers and your godlike energy speak for itself. Just don't add the lines because it's just not there for this one.
It's totally not. And it's really, that makes me sad, because this movie is full of such good lines for Steve. Mm-hmm. And it has set up the intention of who Steve Rogers is as a character. I don't like bullies. I don't care where they come from. Such a great line.
Yep.
Demonstrates so much heart. Like, the opportunity here is to come back around to that sentiment and give Steve some lines that demonstrate how he really feels about Red Skull, and Red Skull as a bully. Like, he's a bad dude. Let's give us some quips that are like smartly written and more fun. It just felt like they stopped having fun writing Steve.
Well, they were certainly being more verbose with him, and it's clear that as they were kind of filming it and kind of probably working on this as they shot, said, what if I just said this, trying to come up with stuff to shorten it and tighten it up and stuff. But it didn't feel like they strengthened anything. It just feels like they're still like, because now he just says, not my future. And it just, I don't know, it just ends up feeling, it feels flat. It just doesn't, it's not an exciting final line for him.
Here's a question though for both of you. Do you think that this line, keep the future, I'm looking for a little here and now, versus not my future, specifically my future, do you think at this point in the MCU they were already thinking about the plays that they would take with the timeline in later in the phases? Because I don't know. Steve has multiple futures. Like, he zips all over the timeline.
Yeah, I feel like just the not my future just feels like we've all seen the end of this film, and he's not going to get to spend any time with Peggy. So I feel like it just is playing into that sense of where things are going with him as a character. I didn't really get a read on it that it was like that they were starting to think about like my future, but other versions of me have different futures. I didn't get a sense of it that it was like thinking into the multiverse yet.
Yeah, watching it, I didn't think. I just was kind of thinking he was finally claiming, where his destiny in a sense, and where he might go, and kind of the uncertainty that he might have. But knowing Marvel now and what we know, I feel like they're just this evil, just like brain trust, where they just have these little pieces they can manipulate, and they just know. Like, they just, I feel like maybe they knew and we didn't know. Because it's so, even in the sense that it's so good that we want to watch, because we know they have this epic plan that none of us will ever know. We're just along for the ride. I just feel like maybe they did. And now looking back on it, maybe they knew they were going to take him to these different universes. So they want him to kind of claim it in that moment. And we have no idea. We're just thinking, oh, okay, he's just, it's the end. Maybe he gets to see Peggy again. Maybe he doesn't.
Yeah, this is an Easter egg that they didn't even know if they were going to be able to pay off, but might as well throw it in there.
Yeah.
Like these little lines that change the read of the movie once you know how Endgame ends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it certainly feels like there was, a sense of something, because, we have that moment in this where Red Skull grabs the Tesseract after Steve has kind of smashed the cube console, and it opens up the heavens for him, and he sees up into it.
Right.
We're not seeing Vormir up there or anything like that, but there is this sense that there is something. Actually, in the script, it has Skull's POV. The plane seems to vanish around him. Visions of the 9 realms dance in the light. A rainbow portal stretches past an observatory and into space. So he's now seeing, Asgard, basically. And then Red Skull, he has actually 5 different options for lines. The first one is Valhalla. The second one, I was right. The third one, it is real. The third one, yes, I understand. And the fourth one, I have waited so long. obviously a lot of thought was going into the direction of his character there. But then it says the visions speed up until they blur. Suddenly the cube vibrates violently. The skull looks worried. Something's wrong. And that's when he says no. And as he starts seeing things, his body dissolving and everything. Do you feel like that would have also helped us, giving us more of a sense of that connection to like outside of the scope? Because what we get right now is just kind of like, it looks kind of like almost like a window to the universe opens up over his head and he kind of looks into it mesmerized, but it doesn't really say anything. Do you feel like we needed more there? Do you feel like it's fine the way it is?
I more like to suspend my belief in a way that I think it was fine. Because I would say now that I want to know, but I would be so mad to know every little inch of how this is going to work out going into the other movies. Because we know they made it very clear that everything was being connected. They were going to use these characters in different ways. So I kind of feel like the magic would have been taken out to know exactly what he was referring to, other than me just looking up like, okay, so the cube is now not this anymore. It can dissolve him. So now this is a whole different kind of evil that I have no idea about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and, back to Joe Johnston and his love of Raiders of the Lost Ark. If this isn't the entree of the final face melting scene and as they open the Ark, even down to the flourishes of the symphonic score in the sequence, it just like it's created this mood that really is this movie is Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Well, it's Power of the Gods to that film too.
Yeah, right. Right, exactly. And so, for me, I kind of like knowing now, a decade later, that the way the script draws it out demonstrates that they did have grander plans. But I think the movie is better not demonstrating those plans. I think the movie is better leaving us to just watch, Red Skull as his own bad guy and not think too hard about, the stuff that we are going to maybe see someday. Leave that for the post-credits scene.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here's another something from the script, and I want to get your read on this, because all we get with Red Skull saying, you could have the power of the gods, before he goes into all the stuff about wearing your flag on your chest. In the script, there was a little more between him and Steve. After he says, you could have the power of the gods, and you will not admit you want it. And then Steve says, I want what every soldier on every battlefield wants. I want to go home. Or there's an alternate, I want this war to end. Do you feel like that would have helped at all in any way? Like that draw between, or, seeing Red Skull basically, I mean, it's interesting when he says, and you will not admit you want it, as if because he wants it so bad and he's a super soldier, he assumes that Steve wants it that bad too. Does that play at all? Or is there a clear reason why this was cut?
I think there's a clear reason why it was cut. I think it's kind of nonsense. Like it is that assumptive like positioning that Red Skull has that I don't think anybody in the audience is going to sit there and like need to hear. It like takes us in a new direction that I don't think we need to hear. It does make me reflect a little bit on the fact that it feels like many sequences in this movie are written like Mad Libs. Like giving so many, like they give him 5 possible lines. Like what? I wish I had some chopsticks. Like it's just ridiculous. Like I just don't understand that style of screenwriting. So
yeah, I just think there's unspoken lines between villains and heroes, and you don't have to you don't have to like tell everything out. We know what Cap represents. Obviously, he's going to use these powers to his full benefit because he wants to be the saver. He wants to be there to protect. And so, yes, the godlike powers do help. Is he going to have the same mindset as the Red Devil? No. I mean, that's just how the villains and the superheroes work. So I think when they don't tell us and we can just kind of figure out where their head is at this moment is a lot better.
Yeah, it is one of these things where, and this I think ends up being part of the problem of the villain trope of monologuing, is sometimes it just seems like, why are you talking right now?
Mm-hmm.
And
exactly.
And even with the conversation that we have in the film, which is much shorter, it definitely doesn't go into quite as much nonsense. Some of it just feels like, would you really be saying all this right now, or would you just be fighting? And it just ends up feeling a little silly. But it is a comic book movie, so maybe that's part of the reason that they do it is because, well, it's comic booky. We want to kind of keep that comic book feel to it.
Yeah.
And everything. But yeah, I mean, I guess they did okay with it, but I feel like, they could have come up with some stronger moments in there throughout. This is the point, though, where Steve does hurl that shield, as we said, and it hits Red Skull right in the chest. I'm assuming he doesn't get bisected. Well, I don't know. I mean, we see in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness when Wanda throws the shield at Captain Carter that it does bisect her. So she's a super soldier. Is there a reason that he wouldn't just get bisected when he gets hit with it like that?
Yes.
Other than it being gross?
I think that it's because they hadn't thought of it yet.
Okay.
It might be just as simple as that. Like they just wanted all they needed him to do is land on the thing, and they needed a way to make him land on the thing, and the shield was it. So if he was bisected, that wouldn't have helped. It wouldn't have taken us to our hero moment, right?
Yeah, I guess that's it.
I just love that the captain shield moment every time he throws it. I forgot that's where it started, where he just brings it from the hip and just throws it all the way across. That's always like his signature pose, his signature throw of the shield from now on. That it gets better when you can kind of like slash people right through the middle when he starts figuring out all the powers he has with it. But I forgot that moment when he had it in this, where it was kind of like he was owning that shield a little bit, and the way he throws it every single time is really cool.
I love that you are such a generous viewer of this movie in that his skills are growing, because I think I started complaining immediately the first time he threw the shield and it didn't come right back. I was like, stupid. It's supposed to come back. But it's like, of course, he has to get better. Like, he has to learn, and that's a good thing. Yeah. It's a good thing to show that. Yeah. That's fine.
There's a lot of skills that he never needed to learn that he does really well, like flying the Fliegerparasite. There, see, I had to squeeze it into this episode too.
Man,
I know,
excellent.
I'm the worst. He never had to learn how to pilot that. But then there are skills that obviously he still is working on, like doing the boomerang shield, where it bounces back and comes back to his arms.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, what happens is he hits Red Skull so hard that he flies back into the cube console and disrupts it somehow. I'm not exactly sure. It's full of blue sparky stuff. It's all over the place. And Red Skull falls to the ground. And then the Tesseract, it's like, it's in that little container of his that it very much feels like Alien when Ripley pulls that thing out. It's like that big console that pops back out. And then the Tesseract, I guess it just kind of rolls out. I'm not exactly sure how, but somehow it falls out. And that's, that gives Red Skull the "what have you done?" no sort of opportunity. Like, how could you have done this? Why does he pick it up here, though? Do you have any sense as to why he thinks that this is a moment for me to finally pick this thing up? Because he's never picked it up before. It's always been something that he's using special tongs for, or keeps it in the box. Yeah, and why is now the moment? It's like, oh.
What a missed merchandising opportunity. Why didn't Marvel release Tesseract tongs?
I would have definitely.
They partner with Bed Bath & Beyond and release those in the barbecue aisle.
I think you're right. There are so many things that you've just said that are a little bit confusing. The physics of the square Tesseract rolling out of the device is strange. That he picks it up, I guess it's his ultimate God mode, right? I kind of can't think of anything else than this is this is the pinnacle of his mania that we're seeing right now, that he's so shocked it's sitting right there, and that he can't help it. Like, he's drawn to it somehow, that he's incapable of not. This is the ultimate marshmallow test. Like, he just can't wait. He has to pick it up right now.
Yeah, I agree. He is the ultimate God power is to try to absorb it, right? You can't just leave it alone. Let me just go, like you said, bring back the tongs, just pick it up, sit it over here. You live to fight another day. He's like, no, I have to absorb it. It's out now, the capsule. I have to pick it up and see what it is and see what it's going to transform me into. Typical villain, feeling himself, doesn't realize there's a limit to what you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, you have to have that moment of where he's just dissolving. How do you get rid of this God, eat Red Skull? Where does he go?
Well, and that's actually a really interesting element. Maybe this is that pinnacle of the mania he has. And maybe he's, there's been enough fighting for both of them where both of them may not always be thinking completely clearly. Steve seemed to be a little winded in the last minute, although he's more clear-headed here. But here, after getting thrown into that cube console, maybe Red Skull has been kind of knocked about a few too many times. And yeah, he's not completely thinking clearly when he sees it there, when he's like, what have you done? And he goes to pick it up and he's looking at it. And it's interesting. And I actually like the way that it plays quite a bit because, Red Skull looks at it kind of intrigued and mesmerized by it. And then as it starts blasting its energy into the air and kind of opens up that portal to the sky, like he stretches his other arm out, like it's almost like he's feeling like he finally does have the power of the gods. And he smiles at it when we cut back to him. Like he's actually smiling. Like, I think this is that moment where he actually feels, I am this powerful. I do have the power of the gods. I can contain this energy. And it's that final foolish moment of your villain, right?
Just like some other maniac German archaeologist we might know.
Oh, so similar. So similar, yeah.
Don't look at it, Marion. Keep your eyes closed, Marion.
Do you think it would have worked better if Captain America had closed his eyes and
Yes.
shielded his face?
Yeah,
Yep.
well, I mean, he has a super face, so he doesn't need to worry about it melting.
Red Skull kind of starts dissolving there. At first, it looks kind of just like his glove dissolving away. In fact, in the script, it's just his glove that dissolves away, and he actually has more of a moment with it. But I like that it seems right away like, he's a little surprised, like, oh, those are my fingers all kind of dissolving away. I love the way that it plays. I mean, it's frightening and kind of gruesome the way that it does it, but it also, I think, works exceptionally well. I mean, how does that play for the two of you, like the dissolving of Red Skull here?
I like it because it's just it puts him back, gives you more if I can get it out, it gives you more perspective and puts him more in like a container where you can't control a power like this. It's bigger than you. You have no right to control something this massive, this big, that you really don't understand. You think you know what it's going to do, but you really don't understand what it is. You just know you have these powers and you can kind of control, like your minion robots over here, but you don't actually know what kind of power you have. So I like how it kind of puts him in check where it's like, now you're getting absorbed into it. You don't have control over it anymore. So what do you do?
Well, and I think the other part of that is that as he's sort of melting up, this is another one of those things that I think I watch differently now that I've seen the rest of the Marvel movies, right? Now that I've seen where kind of he ends up, it is like, the heavens opened up and he's going someplace.
Yeah.
Even though, in the context of this movie, he is destroyed, I say in air quotes.
I like the way that it plays. And you can very much read it that way, where he kind of is reabsorbed in a different space as a different kind of version of himself, So you can kind of see the way that he plays, or the character is when he's on Vormir, and how that ends up working. It's pretty interesting. I like it. I love this little bit with him. All right. Well, any last thoughts about anything from today's minute or anything else this week from either of you?
I just love it. I love it. It's been a great week. So much fighting. I'm so glad Ryanne was here to fight right along with us.
How did you guys know I like to be a part of you guys' Fight Club? The Marvel movie Fight Club. I like it. Anytime you guys do Fight Club, please invite me back.
Yeah, it's all about the Fight Club.
Excellent. Well, we will definitely do that. All right, Ryan, remind everyone one last time where they can track you down out there on the internet.
Oh, yeah, please support us at Black Girl Nerds, all social media platforms. If you like games, anime, superheroes, little drama, check us out, give you a different perspective, a different outlook on everything. If you want to hear me talk more about fight scenes, I will be doing it on there. I'll also be talking about fight scenes at November Bear on Twitter and Ryan Ben on Instagram. And thank you guys for inviting me to your Fight Club.
Oh, it's been a thrill. Thank you so much.
My favorite part about that whole plug all week long, it's gone like this. I talk about fighting and drama and fighting and science fiction and superheroes and a little drama. It's always just okay, it's a little drama, but mostly fighting and superheroes. That's awesome.
Well, it has been so much fun. We have been thrilled to have you join us here for this big week, the final moments between our hero and our villain of the film. So we certainly appreciate you joining us, Ryan. And Pete, you and I will be back next week to talk about what happens with Red Skull and where he goes. So,
I don't think it's too late, Andy. I think Red Skull can pull it out.
You think so?
Yep.
Do you think if he just dropped the Tesseract right now, he'd be okay minus a hand?
It's not over for my man. It's not over for the Red Skull. I think he'll pull it out. We just give it another week.
All right. Well, until then, everybody, Pete, thanks as always.
Come on, Red Skull.
Until next time, true believers.
Marvel Movie Minute is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Andy Nelson. This season's music is Spread the News by Anthony Vega, and this season's show art is by Winston Yabo. Find the show at truestory.fm, and if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, consider doing that for this show.